Hey everyone, welcome to NFL Nexus. We need to talk about the Indianapolis Colts because heading into the 2026 offseason, they are staring down the barrel of a decision that is going to shape this team for years, maybe even a decade. This isn't your typical offseason tinkering. No, we're talking about a franchise-altering moment, a true crossroads where they have to make two massive calls that could either propel them toward a Super Bowl or send them spiraling backwards. And it all comes down to a potential $75 million gamble. Yep, you heard that right. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's really dive into the deep end here, because for general manager Chris Ballard, the stakes, they couldn't be higher. We're looking at two huge fundamental problems that have been simmering for a while and are now boiling over. On one side of the ball, you've got a defense with a fatal flaw, a weakness that has undermined pretty much everything they've tried to build. And on the other side, an offense led by a quarterback, their guy, who is coming back from one of the most devastating injuries a player can suffer. For a GM who has built his entire reputation on being patient, methodical, and building through the draft, the pressure is on. It's immense. The time for patience is over, and the clock on his job is ticking, loud. So, let's kick things off on the defensive side of the ball, because honestly, for what feels like an absolute eternity, the Colts have been haunted by this one, single, infuriating problem that just kneecaps everything else they try to accomplish defensively. It's the kind of thing that probably gives their defensive coordinator nightmares, while opposing quarterbacks, well, they probably sleep like babies the night before playing Indy, knowing they're going to have all the time in the world in the pocket. And, this really gets to the core of who Chris Ballard is as a GM. His whole philosophy, his identity, is built on these three pillars: drafting young guys, prioritizing athleticism, and developing them in-house. And look, on paper, it's a great strategy. It's smart, it's sustainable, it's cost-effective when it works. You build a culture, you control contracts, you get a core group of guys that grows together. But for the single most important game-wrecking position on a modern defense, that elite edge rusher who just lives in the opposing backfield, this strategy hasn't just been a little off. It's been a complete and utter failure. I mean, you could debate why. Maybe it was bad evaluations in the draft. Maybe it was a failure in coaching to turn that raw athleticism into actual pass rush moves. Or maybe it was just some plain bad luck. But whatever the reason, the well of homegrown pass rushers has run bone dry. I mean, just look at this timeline. It really puts it into perspective. 2019, that's the last time a Colts player hit that all-important double-digit sack mark. And who was it? Justin Houston, a veteran free agent they brought in from the outside to fix the problem. Ever since he left, it's been a desert. We are talking 6 full seasons of silence from the edge. 6 years of drafting guys, hoping for that year 3 leap, and instead watching quarterbacks stand back there, pat the ball, check their reads, and just pick their secondary apart. It's impossible to ask your cornerbacks to cover for 5, 6, 7 seconds. It's a domino effect that cripples the entire defensive unit. This isn't a slump. It's a chronic weakness. And here's the thing that's so crucial to understand. This isn't just about the number you see in the box score at the end of the game. A truly elite pass rusher, a reliable veteran, their impact is felt on every single snap. We're talking about disrupting the entire rhythm of an offense. Think about it. It's 3rd and 8. Game on the line. The veteran rusher might not get home for the sack, but he beats his tackles so quickly that the quarterback can't set his feet. He has to bail from the pocket before his receiver makes his break. That's a hurried, off-balance throw that turns into an easy interception. It's that constant, nagging, relentless pressure that forces bad decisions. That's what the Colts have been missing. It's the threat that changes the entire game plan for the other team. So it really feels like the front office has finally hit its breaking point. The time for crossing your fingers and hoping that a young player suddenly figures it all out, that time is over. The solution now seems to be a complete 180, a major strategic pivot. They're going back to the very formula that worked for them with Justin Houston, but this time they're likely going to have to do it on a much bigger, much more expensive scale. They need to go out and buy a finished product, a proven, established veteran who walks in the door and fixes this thing from day one. Even if it feels like admitting that their preferred way of doing things just didn't work for this specific, critical need. And the good news for the Colts is that there are options out there. But man, they represent two totally different philosophies. First, you've got the grand prize, Trey Hendrickson. At 31, the guy is still an absolute animal. And that key stat, 61 sacks since 2021, that is just absurd production. He is a pure game wrecker. And the cherry on top? He's played for Colts defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo back in Cincinnati. He knows the system, so the fit is seamless. But that kind of elite, guaranteed production costs a fortune. We're talking north of $30 million a year. Then you've got the other route, the legendary Khalil Mack. Now, he's older, he's got more mileage, and maybe he's even thinking about retirement, but he's a future first-ballot Hall of Famer, a former DPOY whose instincts and football IQ are just off the charts. He could probably be signed for half the price of Hendrickson. So that's the dilemma, right? Do you pay the massive premium for the sure thing, or do you take a calculated, more affordable risk on a legend who might have a little less in the tank? All right, now let's switch gears and go to the other side of the ball. Because as massive and expensive as that defensive fix is, believe it or not, there's an even bigger, and I would argue much riskier financial decision staring them right in the face. And it revolves around the single most important position in all of sports, the quarterback. So this entire crisis on offense really kicked off on December 7th, 2025, when Colts quarterback Daniel Jones went down. And this quote right here from ESPN's Stephen Holder, this tells you everything you need to know about the severity of it all. When Aaron Rodgers, a guy who knows this exact brutal injury better than almost anyone, is reaching out personally to give advice on the rehab, that speaks volumes. It's a sign of respect in that tight-knit QB club, for sure, but it's also a flashing red light, a grim reminder of the monumental task Jones has ahead of him. This isn't a sprained ankle. The Achilles is the engine for a quarterback. It's the anchor for every throw, the spring for every movement. A torn Achilles is a brutal injury for any athlete, but for a quarterback, it has historically been a career death sentence. It just robs you of your power, that ability to plant your back foot in the ground and just drive the football downfield with zip. It's compromised. Your ability to feel pressure, escape the pocket, and make a play with your legs, it's gone, or at least greatly diminished. And just look at the recent track record. It is not pretty. The two biggest names to go through this recently, Aaron Rodgers comes back, but his team limps to a 5-12 record, and he just didn't look like the same player. Then there's Kirk Cousins. He signs a huge contract with Atlanta after his injury, only to get benched for a rookie the very next year. The history here is just, it's bleak. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. With all that frightening history, with all that evidence staring them in the face, you would think the Colts would be hedging their bets, right? Maybe drafting a QB high, looking at trades. Nope. All the signals coming out of that building in Indianapolis point to one thing. They are all in on Daniel Jones. It's like they're choosing to ignore the history books. They seem to be fully, completely committed, and it must come from a deep-seated belief in the player they saw before the injury. They believe in his leadership, his toughness, his work ethic. They are getting ready to make a huge bet that he's not just another statistic, but that he's the exception to the rule. So, just how big is that bet? Well, this number says it all. More than $45 million. That's the projected one-year cost if they use the franchise tag. Now think about that. This isn't some long-term, team-friendly deal with a bunch of incentives and escape hatches if he doesn't bounce back. Nope. The franchise tag is a one-year, fully guaranteed contract that says, we're paying you like an elite top 5 quarterback, and we expect you to play like one right now. It is an absolutely breathtaking financial commitment to a player coming off one of the most difficult injuries in modern sports. It's tying up a huge chunk of your salary cap based on nothing but pure, unadulterated faith. So you see what's happening here, right? You put it all together. You take the massive amount of cash they need to spend to finally fix the defense, and you combine it with the massive internal commitment they're making on offense, and what you end up with is one of the riskiest, most compelling, and absolutely franchise-defining offseason strategies that we're going to see across the entire league. Let's just break it down into these two simple, incredibly high-stakes bets. Bet number 1 is a total change in philosophy. They're basically admitting the draft and develop model failed at pass rusher, and now they're ready to write a $30 million check to an outsider to fix it. Bet number 2 is a tremendous leap of faith in their own guy. They're doubling down on Daniel Jones with a $45 million tag, betting against all of the medical precedent. So you have one move that's born from years of desperation, and another that's born from incredible loyalty. Add them up, and you're looking at a $75 million swing on these two positions. And let's be crystal clear about what this means. This isn't just about trying to win a few more games next season. This whole two-part gamble is a direct referendum on Chris Ballard's entire run as the general manager. He is literally staking his reputation, his legacy in Indianapolis, and, let's be honest, probably his job, on how these two enormous decisions play out. If they both hit, if the pass rusher dominates and Jones comes back to form, he's a hero. He's the genius who finally got the Colts over the hump. But if one, or God forbid, both of these bets fail, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for the team's immediate future, but for the entire leadership structure. And so that brings us to the ultimate question that's going to be debated all offseason in Indianapolis. Is this the right move? Is this the right path? They're about to pour potentially over $75 million in a single offseason into one known but very expensive commodity on defense, and one massive, terrifying unknown on offense. It's a strategy that is just dripping with risk, but at the same time, it has the tantalizing possibility of an incredible reward. Will this incredible gamble pay off and finally make the Colts a legitimate contender? Or will it go down as the expensive miscalculation that defined an era of what-ifs? We're all going to have to wait and see. So what do you think about all this? I want to know. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think the Colts should do. If you enjoyed this deep dive from us here at NFL Nexus, do me a favor and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more analysis like this. And hey, if you're looking for something fun for the football fans in your life, you can help support our channel by checking out our coloring books. They are perfect for kids, grandkids, and hey, even for adults. You can find them using the link down in the description or by scanning the QR code you see on your screen right now. Thanks for watching.